My half-brother stood in my driveway demanding I share my grandmother's inheritance with him and his sisters, and I finally said what I'd wanted to say for 20 years. Where were you when they called me a bastard at family dinners? I'm 31 years old, and I just inherited $2.3 million from my grandmother, the only person in my father's family who ever treated me like I belonged. Now, suddenly, the half-siblings who tortured me throughout my childhood think they deserve half of it. They don't. Let me take you back, because the backstory matters. It explains everything. My parents weren't married. My mom was 23, working as a waitress, when she met my dad at the restaurant. He was 35, successful, charming. He told her he was divorced. He wasn't. He was married with 3 kids, ages 8, 6, and 4. My mom didn't find out until she was 6 months pregnant with me. She considered termination, considered giving me up for adoption, but ultimately decided to keep me, raise me alone. My father paid child support, the court made him, but that was it. No visits, no calls, no relationship. I grew up in a small apartment with my mom, who worked 2 jobs to make ends meet. My father lived 15 minutes away in a big house with his wife and 3 kids, my half-siblings, Ethan, Madison, and Claire. I knew they existed. I'd seen photos, but I didn't meet them until I was 8 years old. My grandmother, my father's mother, had been asking to meet me for years. My father refused, not wanting to complicate things with his real family. But when I was 8, my grandmother put her foot down. She told my father she was cutting him out of her will if he didn't let her meet her grandchild. So suddenly I was invited to Sunday dinner. I remember that first dinner so clearly. I wore my nicest clothes, a dress my mom had bought specifically for this occasion. I was nervous but excited. I had grandparents, siblings, a whole other family. My grandmother was warm and kind. She hugged me, called me beautiful, asked me about school. She made me feel welcome. Everyone else made me feel like an intruder. My father's wife, Sharon, smiled tightly and barely spoke to me. My father looked uncomfortable the entire time. And my half-siblings? They stared at me like I was a bug they wanted to squash. After dinner, while the adults talked in the living room, Ethan, who was 11, cornered me in the hallway. "You're the bastard," he said. "That's what Mom calls you. The bastard kid." I didn't know what that word meant then, but I knew from his tone it wasn't good. Madison, who was 9, laughed. "You don't belong here. This is our family. Our grandma. You're just the mistake." Claire was 6, too young to really understand, but she parroted what her older siblings said. "Mistake. Mistake." I cried. My grandmother found me in the bathroom, red-faced and sobbing. She made my father drive me home early, but she didn't stop inviting me. Every Sunday, she'd pick me up from my mom's apartment and bring me to her house, just the 2 of us. We'd bake cookies, watch old movies, play board games. She told me stories about my father when he was young, showed me photo albums, made me feel like I was part of a history that included me. Those Sundays were magic. With my grandmother, I felt wanted. But a few times a year, holidays, birthdays, big family events, my grandmother would ask me to come to gatherings where my father and his real family would be there. And every single time, it was hell. Ethan was the worst. As we got older, his cruelty became more calculated. He'd accidentally spill drinks on me. He'd tell other cousins I was the affair baby. He'd make jokes about my mom being a homewrecker, about me being unwanted, about how my father had to be forced to even acknowledge I existed. Madison was more subtle. She'd exclude me from conversations, turn her back when I tried to join activities, whisper to Claire right in front of me. She made sure I knew I was different, lesser, not really part of the family. Claire followed their lead. Sometimes she seemed like she might be kind, but then Ethan or Madison would shoot her a look and she'd fall in line. Sharon never corrected them. She'd watch her children bully me and say nothing. Once, when I was 12, Ethan shoved me into a pool at a birthday party, fully clothed, in front of everyone, and Sharon just sighed and said, "Boys will be boys." My father? He avoided me entirely. At family events, he'd barely look at me. Never defended me. never acknowledged what his kids were doing. The only person who stood up for me was my grandmother. "Ethan, that's enough," she'd say sharply. "Madison, include your sister. Sharon, control your children." But she couldn't be everywhere. And the bullying continued for years. By the time I was 16, I stopped going to family events. I told my grandmother I couldn't take it anymore. "They hate me," I said. "They've always hated me. And no one except you does anything to stop it." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm so sorry. I thought if I kept trying, they'd come around. That family would win out eventually." Family has already won. Just not the family I'm part of. "You're part of my family. Always." I still visited her, just her, at her house on Sundays. We maintained our relationship. But I stopped going to gatherings. Stopped trying to connect with half-siblings who'd made it clear I'd never be their sister. I graduated high school. Went to college on scholarships and student loans. Built a life. My grandmother came to my college graduation. My father didn't. Over the years, I'd hear updates about my half-siblings through my grandmother. Ethan got a finance degree, worked in corporate something or other. Madison got married, had 2 kids. Claire went to law school. They never reached out to me. Not once in 13 years after I stopped attending family events. Then 3 months ago, my grandmother died. She was 87. It wasn't unexpected. She'd been declining for a while. But it shattered me. She was the only member of my father's family who ever loved me, who ever made me feel like I mattered. The funeral was surreal. I sat in the back, crying quietly. My father sat in the front with Sharon, Ethan, Madison, and Claire. They didn't acknowledge me, didn't come over, didn't say a word. After the service, people mingled. I was standing alone when Madison approached. "Hey," she said. Awkward. Uncomfortable. "Hi. It's been a long time. 13 years.
Right. Well,
Sorry for your loss." "You too." She nodded and walked away. That was it. After years of bullying, years of silence, that was all she had to say. 2 weeks later, I got a call from my grandmother's lawyer. She'd left me everything. Not half. Not a quarter. Everything. $2.3 million, the house, investments, savings, everything she owned, left to me. Her will was crystal clear. She'd even included a letter. "To my darling granddaughter," it read. "You were the light of my later years. Our Sundays together were the highlight of my weeks. You deserved so much better than what my family gave you. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you more. This inheritance is my way of making sure you're taken care of, the way you should have been all along. Use it to build a beautiful life. You deserve every happiness. With all my love, Grandma." I sobbed reading it. I also knew immediately that this was going to be a problem. 3 days after I met with the lawyer, my father called. First time he'd called me in probably 5 years. "We need to talk," he said. "About Mom's will." "What about it?" "She left everything to you." "I know. That's not fair. You weren't the only grandchild. I was the only grandchild who spent time with her. The others would have if she'd asked." She asked. Constantly. They weren't interested unless it was a holiday where they'd get gifts. Silence. "The will should be split 4 ways," he said finally, "among all her grandchildren." That's not what she wanted. She was old. She wasn't thinking clearly. She was sharp until the end. She knew exactly what she was doing. This is going to cause problems in the family. What family, Dad? The family that called me a bastard? The family that pushed me into pools and excluded me from everything? That family? That was years ago. They were kids. They were cruel.
and you let them be.
You never once defended me. I'm not going to argue about the past. I'm asking you, as your father, to do the right thing and share that inheritance. The right thing? The right thing was treating me like your daughter. The right thing was stopping your other kids from bullying me. The right thing was being a father instead of a child support check. You're being unreasonable. I'm being honest. Grandma left me her estate because I was the only one who loved her for who she was, not what she could give me. I'm not sharing it. He hung up. 2 days later, Ethan showed up at my apartment. We need to talk about Grandma's money, he said, pushing past me into my living room. There's nothing to talk about. You can't seriously think you're entitled to all of it. Grandma thought I was entitled to it. That's what matters. We're her grandchildren, too. Then maybe you should have acted like it when she was alive. We visited her. Twice a year. On Christmas and her birthday. And only because your parents made you. That's not true. It is true. I was there every Sunday for 20 years. Where were you? He didn't have an answer. Grandma left you that money because she felt guilty, he said finally. About how we treated you. She was trying to apologize. Maybe. Or maybe she left it to me because I actually loved her. This is going to tear the family apart. I laughed. It came out bitter. What family? The family where you called me a bastard? Where you shoved me into a pool? Where you told cousins I was the affair baby and shouldn't be at family events? His face reddened. That was a long time ago. You never apologize. I was a kid. You were old enough to know better. And you're an adult now who's never once reached out, never once acknowledged what you did, and now you're here demanding money. I'm not demanding. I'm asking you to be fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Was it fair when you and Madison made my childhood hell? Was it fair when your mom called me a bastard and your dad pretended I didn't exist? Was it fair when I was excluded from everything, mocked at every gathering, treated like I was less than? Jesus, are you still hung up on that? Hung up. Hung up. You made my life miserable and now you want me to share an inheritance with you? The inheritance Grandma left me because she knew exactly what you all put me through? $500,000 would change my life. Then maybe you should have been a better grandson. And a better brother. We're not siblings.
Exactly.
We're not. So get the fuck out of my apartment and don't come back. He left, but not before calling me selfish, greedy, and vindictive. Madison came next. She brought her kids, 2 little girls, ages 5 and 3. Strategic manipulation at its finest. I know we weren't close growing up, she said, forcing a smile. But family is family. And these girls are your nieces. Grandma would have wanted them to benefit from her estate too. Grandma met them twice. She would have seen them more if you'd made the effort. You didn't. You visited her twice a year, stayed for an hour, and left. I had kids. I was busy. I had a full-time job. I still came every Sunday. She shifted tactics. Look, I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry we weren't nicer to you when we were young. Kids are cruel. But we're adults now. We can move past it. You never apologized before. Not once in 13 years. And now, when there's money involved, suddenly you're sorry? I'm trying to make amends. You're trying to guilt me into giving you money. It's not the same thing. $500,000 would help me so much. The girls' college funds, the mortgage. That's not my problem. Her expression hardened. You know what? I tried to be nice. I tried to apologize. But you're just bitter. You've always been bitter. Maybe we were mean to you because you were always so pitiful and desperate for attention. I opened my door. Get out. This isn't over. We'll contest the will. Go ahead. The lawyer says it's airtight. Grandma was of sound mind, made her wishes clear, and there's even a letter explaining her reasoning. You'll lose. She grabbed her kids and left. Claire was the last. She came alone, looking genuinely uncomfortable. I know you probably don't want to see me, she said quietly. I know I was awful to you growing up. Yeah, you were. I followed what Ethan and Madison did. I thought that's what I was supposed to do. Mom always talked about you like you were this problem, this thing that disrupted our perfect family. And I just believed her. That's not an excuse. I know. I'm not making excuses. I'm trying to explain. And apologize.
I'm sorry.
I'm genuinely sorry for how I treated you. It was the first apology I'd received. From any of them. Thank you, I said carefully. I'm not here to ask for money, she continued. I know Grandma left it to you, and I understand why. You were the only one who really knew her. I barely remember her, honestly, because we hardly ever saw her. Then why are you here? Because Ethan and Madison are talking about contesting the will. And I wanted to tell you, I won't be part of it. What you do with the inheritance is your business. It's what Grandma wanted. I studied her face. She seemed sincere. Why the change? I asked. Why are you being decent now? I went to therapy after my divorce. Worked through a lot of stuff, including how I treated people growing up, including you. I realized I was complicit in some really cruel behavior. You were. I know. And I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that not all of us are going to fight you on this. She left after that. No demands. No manipulation. Just an apology. It didn't change anything. I wasn't giving her money either, but it was something. Ethan and Madison did try to contest the will. Their lawyer argued that my grandmother had been unduly influenced by me, that I'd manipulated an old woman for financial gain. My lawyer presented evidence. Years of visitor logs from my grandmother's assisted living facility showing I visited weekly. Greeting cards I'd sent. Photos of our Sunday outings. The letter my grandmother had written explaining her decision. The judge was not impressed with Ethan and Madison's case. Your grandmother's will is clear, the judge said. She was of sound mind, made her wishes explicit, and even provided written reasoning. The fact that you disagree with her decision doesn't constitute grounds for contestation. Case dismissed. They lost, and had to pay their own legal fees. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, I've gotten messages from various family members. My father's sister called me selfish. My father himself sent a long email about disappointing him and turning my back on family. Sharon sent a message saying I was proof that bad breeding will always show. I blocked them all. The inheritance is being finalized. $2.3 million. After taxes, still over $1.5 million. I'm buying a house. Something my mom and I could never afford when I was growing up. Something beautiful with a yard and a kitchen that's bigger than our old apartment. I'm paying off my student loans. All of them. In full. I'm setting up a trust for my future kids, if I have them, so they never have to struggle the way my mom and I did. And I'm donating $100,000 to a scholarship fund for kids from single-parent households. In my grandmother's name. The rest? I'm saving it.
Investing it.
Building a secure future. Not sharing a cent with people who made my childhood a nightmare. People ask me sometimes if I feel guilty, if I think about splitting it with my half-siblings. And I tell them the truth. No. I don't feel guilty. I feel grateful. Grateful my grandmother saw me when no one else did. Grateful she loved me when her own son wouldn't. Grateful she gave me Sundays when the rest of the week was hard. This inheritance isn't just money. It's validation. It's my grandmother saying, you mattered. You were worth it. You were loved. And I'm not sharing that with people who spent my entire childhood telling me the opposite. Ethan, Madison, and Claire want money they didn't earn from a woman they barely knew. I want to honor the relationship I had with the only family member who ever truly cared about me. Those aren't the same thing. Last week, I drove past my father's house. The big house I'd always known existed but never felt welcome in. It looked smaller than I remembered. Then I drove to my grandmother's old house, the one I inherited and am selling. I sat in the driveway for a while, remembering Sunday afternoons. Cookies and board games and feeling loved. Thank you, I whispered, for everything. I don't know if my grandmother can hear me, but I hope she knows I'm okay. That I'm using her gift to build something good. Something that doesn't include people who called me a bastard, who pushed me into pools, who made me feel like I didn't belong. They want my inheritance. They can't have it. Not because I'm bitter, though I'd be justified if I was, but because that money represents something more important than wealth. It represents love, and you can't buy your way into love you never gave. My grandmother knew that. That's why she left it all to me, and that's why I'm keeping it.